Yo, what is good, guys, and welcome to today's video. I hope all is well with you today. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that Figma to Webflow design that we had built out in Webflow, and we're going to actually be optimizing it for all mobile breakpoints, the tablet, mobile landscape, and mobile portrait, with the emphasis on the mobile portrait, and just making sure everything looks clean for our mobile users. That's essentially what we're going to be doing. For those of you who are just watching part two, I recommend that you go back and watch part one, where we take the design from Figma and then move it into Webflow. The workflow from Figma to Webflow, though, isn't really as consistent. I noticed that when I was doing it. I like to eyeball things, so next time when I do tutorials, I'll make sure that all the pixels and everything like that is on point, so you guys can upload and understand a design directly from Figma into Webflow. I like to eyeball things. Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, so it's just I'm used to it. But I noticed that not everyone, this is a beginner tutorial, so I want to make sure that everything is crisp and clear. But I hope you guys did like that last tutorial nonetheless. So yeah, let's just get started. Let's hop right on in. And what we're going to be doing first is we're going to be actually just working with our iPad view. And at least on my computer, I don't know about you guys, but on mine, I actually have a really small screen. I have about, I think, 13 inches across. So for my laptop, this actually works fine. Like, you see, there isn't really too much to change here on my end. I didn't really have to do anything, so it still looks okay, But for you guys who maybe this pattern completely changed, just keep watching. The principles that are going to be applied to both landscape and portrait mode on mobile can also be applied to iPad. So only thing though I did here is with the nav bar, I switched it. So I pushed this down to landscape, um, because I really, there's not too much crowdedness going on here with the nav bar. If maybe I had more links here, I'd probably would just make sure that it is also a hamburger menu. But right now I'm not worried about that. I just left it how it is on desktop as well. Okay, so yeah, everything ended up scaling fine on its own. What I'm gonna work on now though is our landscape mode, and what we're gonna start with is our nav bar. Okay, so let's actually hop into that. What I'm gonna do first though is I'm gonna make sure that it's colored. Let's give it a color of dew yellow. Right, so let's actually open up our menu and see how everything looks. So everything is pretty much already straightforward. Only thing I did here is I gave it a vertical of center center, and that's it. Vertical flex, center center, everything lined up pretty well. With our nav button, what I did was I give it a size of 1 em, and with our links I gave it a size of 1.1 ems for the text size. For the button itself, I actually got rid of the corner radius, so everything is just kind of nice and smooth there. And I think for our button spacing on mobile, I think I'll give that a little bit more room. Let's do maybe 16 on top and bottom, something like that. That looks actually pretty good. And for our icon, when the menu is open, I want to give that black as well. And you can do that using the typography settings. So cool. Let's see. Yep, that looks fine. That looks great. So next thing I want to do is I actually want to create a press state. So in our press state, what I want to do is I want to take the same dew yellow and give it a little bit of feedback. You guys know when you guys are using you guys are, maybe shopping online and you click on a link and you're not too sure you're clicking on it. Everything is taking a little bit longer to load. So you tap it multiple times and it sometimes causes the whole thing to maybe freeze up. Well, that's because you don't really, you weren't sure that the link that you even clicked on was a real link. So we can avoid that by adding a little bit more feedback. And how we do that is, how I'm going to do that in this case is add dew yellow again, but instead add a little bit of a darker shade to it. Something like that, actually. So let's see. Let me take it back one more time. And I want to give it just a slight shade, just so we know, just enough. Nothing too crazy. And I'm actually going to give this pressed and then dew yellow. So DY for dew yellow. And that's it. Right? So that's on pressed. So that way, when you guys see, if your thumb was pressing on it, you get a little bit of feedback, and that works great for the user. Boom, there we go. Right? So now let's work on our section spacing before we do anything else. And I think I want to do, 20 on each side here, and I want to do 60, 60, at least for the hero. Everything else might be 20. Let's see. Let's just see. Let's give it 60. 20. And that should have translated to all of our sections. And it did, except for the footer, but I'm worried about that later. Cool. So let's go ahead and start with our hero grid. And what I'm going to want to do is just flex this out. So Flexbox, I changed it over from grid to Flexbox. So you can actually do that with the grid. Hit Flexbox, and I'm going to do vertical. I'm actually going to flip this around in reverse and bring the image up to the top. So what I'm going to do with the image wrapper then is I'm going to actually remove the height. Remove the height. Put that on auto. And for our width, I'm going to do 400 because this is still landscape. Remember, we're working with a little bit of a larger screen. So what I'm going to do now is bring this to the center. And you guys might notice, did it actually kind of fit in uniform for now. Okay, so for our text wrapper, I'm going to give this a little bit of space of 30, something like that. And I might just leave everything like this for now, because what's really more important to me is knocking down that mobile portrait version, making sure that's smooth. So I'm going to leave that for now. Okay. And then, yeah, as far as our sections here, everything looks okay. I actually might just do 60 for the spacing here instead. And what I'm going to do for, at least on landscape, I'm going to actually create a 4-column row. I mean, a 4-column, a 2-column row. 2 rows, 2 columns. There we go. And by doing that, I'm just going to remove these, and you can see it created some rows on its own. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the logo wrappers for the smaller ones a combo class of space. Space. We'll do space. Space. And the reason why is because I want to make sure that all these logos are even, and the words I notice are scaling at a different size. So let me go ahead and change the width of this. Let's do maybe 33 viewport widths. Okay, I can turn that down. Let's do maybe 26. And let's push this logo wrapper over to the right. Oh, it didn't do it. Okay. So let me actually give this a width. Let's do maybe 80%. Fine. Now it's moving around just a little bit. Not as much as I would like it though, but it might just be okay. Bring this a little bit more to the left. To the right. Everything feels okay here. Maybe I can even push this down a little more. Push this up a little more. That's fine. Cool. And that's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy. All right, so let's keep going. So for this section, I'm going to want to just make our 2-column grid a flex box once again and change it over to vertical. And I'm going to do another reverse so we get the image on top. So same thing applies here. So for our image wrapper, we did give it a width, remember? So now we're going to get our 2-column grid and push it to the center. And what you're going to notice is our team wrapper is completely missing, right? It's smashed. And the reason why is because we justified everything to the center. This had no locked in width, so therefore it just kind of collapsed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and go 100%, and there we go, right? And the same thing applies here as well for our image wrapper. We also got rid of the height. So yeah, everything looks nice and uniform, right? Make sure our text wrapper looks nice, and it does. I might actually push down this a little bit. Cool. And let's actually make this squiggly line just a little smaller. I'm probably going to give this around, let's try 40 VW. Try 50. It's actually not the width then. Let's play around with this a little bit, and let's push it down just slightly. Let's give it maybe like 15 or something like that, just so it's away from the button and we have no situation where we're actually tapping on our block and not our button. That's all I'm doing that for, because then in that case we'd have to bring our entire button wrapper up to the top, and it's not necessary, but if I can move this around a bit and not affect the design. Okay, so let's keep going. This looks fine. This looks okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with our 3-column grid. And I think I'm actually just going to make this flex as well. So let's do that. Okay, vertical. And let's actually line this in the center. And we're going to actually take our entire benefit wrapper and try to align that to the center. And it worked. Cool. Yep, that looks great. Yeah, it looks fine either way. Perfect. That looks okay. That looks okay. This is okay for now. Yeah, all this is okay. My main priority though is just to make sure that our portrait is a little bit more tidy. So this is just in case anybody flips their phone around, they could at least have something that's decently optimized. So let's do 20 here on both margins of the section. This is fine. Yep, that's okay. And for our footer, now we got to our footer, let's play around with that. So let's do 20 on each side, and you can see our icons are coming back now. If yours disappeared, they will reappear now. Cool. Okay, so let's play around with the grid just a bit. And what I want to do is push this text box over. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Let's see. Let's try around 5. I like the way 5 felt. So I'm just going to go manually enter 5. Cool. That looks great. We're done there. Let's see. What else? Let's see. Let's actually close the gap a bit. Let's do like 5 on the gap. There we go. Let's make this text a little small. Let's do 1.2 maybe. No, a little too small. 1.5. Yeah, 4. There we go. So we're now having a lone word down there at the bottom. Okay, that looks great. That looks great. Let's actually go to our top social icon and let's turn this up to maybe 5. That looks good. Okay, okay. Lastly, our legal bar. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here, padding on both left and right at 20. And we're good. No need to change that any more than that already is. All right, we're good. This looks fine. This looks totally fine for landscape. Totally fine for someone who accidentally flips their phone around. This is fine. I'm more so concerned about our portrait, so let's get to work on that. So we notice we give our image wrapper a width, but now we don't even need it. So I can actually set that to auto. And our hero section, everything like that is fine still. Let's keep going. So with our H1, let's actually change this to maybe 2.8 EMs and see how that feels. No, let's keep going. I actually like the way 2.4 feels in this case. And let's see how it looks like on bigger phones. That's fine. We keep a consistent strain of letters, strain of words throughout. Yeah. As long as I can break here and all the words look nice and even and flush and no loner words are at the bottom, I'm happy with that. Cool. Let's keep going. The subtext is okay. The button is also okay. Let's actually turn up the brand a bit. Let's go maybe 30. We could probably do 33. There we go. And yeah, I think we're fine for that. I think we're fine. We're fine for now on that. Let's see how this translated though, as far as our menu goes, and everything looks fine. I like it. Cool. Let's keep going. So now that we actually gave our H1 a size of 2.4 EMs, I'm actually going to give this one a little smaller. So maybe let's do 2.1 EM. Let's see how that works. And that's okay. I actually like the way that feels. So for this, since we made this a 2-column, 2-row type grid, instead what I'm going to do is push our 4-column grid back to the original shape. So I'm going to give it a width of 100, and I'm actually going to just do this. Let's give it. Let's actually go ahead and let's see if we can add a row. Yep, let's add a row. Should we add rows or should we do? Let's do flexbox. We can do flexbox. Let's do align to center. So the good thing we actually made a combo class, because you notice how these are kind of a different size. So what I'm going to do first though is I'm going to actually make this a little larger, and it's not even allowing me because these other ones are too big. So let's go ahead and make these smaller. See now how it's creating space for the other ones? And I want to just eyeball it until it's somewhat even to my eyes. Nothing is too dominant, and I like the way that feels. Let's be sure that our justify is actually all the way to the left and to the right, and we're not spacing around like this one. Let's see how this feels. I like the way that looks. I think as it grows, though, it feels a little awkward, so I think I want to create a little more space. Um, let's see. Let's make this a little smaller. Something like that. There we go. Something like that is okay. All right. Cool. I don't mind this. If I need to touch that up, I will come back to it, but I think this looks fine. Yeah. It's scaling okay. It's getting a little bit too large for me. So what I think I'm going to do is, let's actually make these a little bit smaller. And the same for these, honestly. There we go, something like that. There we go, it's a little bit more even. There we go. That feels a little better. Okay. Other than that, I think this session looks okay. So let's keep it moving. And honestly, we could even make it smaller than 20, but 20 is okay for now. Um, for example, sometimes I like to do like 15, just so we have a little bit more room. It's a little goes a long way, especially on larger breakpoints. See how that feels? It just feels a little bit more continuous and not so crammed, right? So I know for this one right here, in desktop, I did have to break the line. I think though what I want to do for this is actually backspace that line. And what I want to do instead is give this whole entire H1, the centered H1s, a width of maybe 400. Let's try even 500. So that way when I come over to mobile, I can just kind of set this back to auto and it resets itself. So that's what I just decided to do instead. Okay, let's keep going. This looks fine. Oh, so since we actually gave our H1s in the center a text of 2.1 EMs, I think I'm gonna actually make this even smaller and let's do 1.8 EM. I like that. And let's go ahead and give our P1s 1.1 EM. Okay, how does that feel? That feels good. Let's keep going. That's fine. This is fine. I actually want to turn this down even more. So now let's give this a width of maybe 30 viewport widths. Okay. 50. Okay. I like that. 5. Fine. Cool. Fine, and this is not hovering over the image, so we're still cool there as far as clearance. This is fine. This is fine. The spacing like that is okay. See where we're at. 30 still. That's good. Especially when you get on larger breakpoints. It ends up looking okay. All right. Let's actually give this the spacer of 60. And this looks fine. This is a little bit too large for me. I think especially when it came to her. So let's do 400. And it actually should translate well here, which it does. This looks good. Let's actually make this a little smaller as well, our H3. Let's give it maybe like a 1.6. Cool. Cool. And let's make sure this is also a 1.6. I mean, yeah, let's give it a 1.6. Cool. 1.6 here. Cool. I like the way that feels. So let's check out our P4 here. And I still want to keep this a little larger. So let's do 1.5 EMs. And let's actually bring this up 1 point. So everything is nice and spaced. And lastly, for our H1 color, I'm going to refer back to our H1 in our on our hero. I'm going to actually copy that. Come down here. I'm going to just paste the same exact setting, and it's actually 2.4 EMs, which is cool. Go to our section, and I think I'm going to give this a 10 on each side. That's fine. Yes, that's fine. That looks good. And lastly, for our footer, I think for our footer, what I'm going to do is flex this. Let's go vertical. Everything should line up smoothly except for the links. So let's give that a horizontal. And for my links, I think what I'm going to do, you guys can feel free to do what you want, but I'm actually going to do edge to edge here as far as spacing them evenly across our div block. And I'm going to actually increase our social icon width up to maybe 12. I think 12 is okay. Um, Maybe even 13. It's something a little bit larger because like this is on a phone, and I want to make sure that every single one of these icons has enough thumb space to click on them, and everything works fine. So that's okay. I like that. And yeah, actually our legal bar is fine. There's no need to really do anything there. So let's see. Yeah, everything is fine. This is good. I like the way this feels. The spacing between everything I think is okay. Uh, I would probably go back through it a few times. Let's see. Yeah, close that gap just a little bit, and things feel a little bit smoother. I kind of like this. This is fine. This is fine. Yeah, this is okay. Let's see. What is this? Text wrapper 30 at the top. Yeah, it's okay. Is our team wrapper, does that have a space? No, it don't. But it's fine. Okay. This is actually anchored to the bottom, but what you can do too. Okay. This might only apply for larger breakpoints of the phone, but for now, let's go ahead and just leave it at the bottom. Okay, I like this. I do not mind this at all. Because my phone is about right here. And this isn't too bad. It isn't too bad. Let's see. Best to leave it at 100. I think maybe I would even turn some of these down a little more. Something like that, maybe. I think that looks fine. But yeah, that's it. That's it, guys. I think we're done here. I'm double checking things. Yeah, it's fine. I think we're good. I think you could even argue that this text should be flipped. So I think some people could even argue that this is more so how it should be set up. It's because we want to enter the website with a text, which is fine. But we're good. Aside from that, I think it looks smooth. Let me actually push this up a bit now that I see this on a larger breakpoint. So let me push this back up a little. Ooh, we're just kind of touching that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make this a little smaller. So let's do maybe 45. Yeah, something like that. Yep. Okay. So we're good. All is done here. Let me go ahead and hit publish, and we're good. Of course, I would check on my phone and everything like that. But just eyeballing it, I think it's good for some practice. Let me know if you guys like this build. We're all done here. If you guys want to go ahead and practice out any more layouts, any variations of this, feel free to do so. But I am good here on my end. I think I would just check on my phone and play around with it a bit. But I think we're good. I think we're good. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Um, Hope you guys like this tutorial. If you guys want me to make more, I'm more than happy to do that. I honestly spend a lot more time in Figma than I do Webflow. I live to design. That's why I have a team to help me actually develop these things. Um, because honestly, as much as I like to, use Webflow and everything like that, my favorite part of this whole process is design. So if you guys want me to actually spend more time in Figma so you can learn how to, lay things out and grab inspiration and build things in Figma instead, then that's something that we can do. But other than that, I appreciate you guys watching this tutorial. Hopefully you learned something, and I will be back with another video soon. Thank you and take care.